Alright, welcome back to the channel, guys. As you can see, I have the 95 Civic sedan pulled in the garage here because we're going to be working on the rear subframe brace. I did go ahead and sell the EK subframe brace that I had, and I've got the EG one over here on the workbench, so let's go ahead and take a look at it. I'll show you what all I've got, and I did have to order a few extra things to make it work, so let's go check it out. Alright, so what I've got here is primarily three different kits. I have the eBay kit, which comes with the subframe brace, the lower control arms, and the lower tie bar. Now, in addition to that, I have the Swaybar, which was really just an old Swaybar I had from my old Civic sedan. This is a 19mm Swaybar. I think it was originally for like an Acura Integra, like a DC Integra. But it was an aftermarket one, and I was using it on it, but I did not have the proper subframe brace on that car, so that's why I wanted to use this on the EG here to make sure it's mounted correctly. You don't want to mount this to a subframe that's not designed for a larger subframe or a larger sway bar, because potentially with the larger sway bar you put a lot of stresses on the subframe and you could rip it out from where it's bolted in. So on top of the sway bar, I did have to order some new sway bar bushings. The ones that I had, the bushings were old, they were really hard, but not only that, but the mounting bracket itself did not line up with the holes here on the subframe brace. So what I had to do was order a Energy Suspension 19mm subframe brace bracket and bushing set. This is about 25 bucks shipped on Amazon. I'll link it down below. But it actually works out perfectly. I've already lined this up, and it sits perfectly on these bolt holes here, so everything's going to bolt up just fine. Let's take a closer look at that. Alright, so taking a closer look at the old sway bar bushing and bracket, I was able to see that this bracket is a little bit too small. So the mounting holes for the sway bar are actually these two holes here, and this old bracket is significantly too small to line up with both of those holes to bolt it on properly. So I was not able to use this bracket itself. Luckily, Energy Suspension does sell a generic 19mm sway bar bushing kit. It comes with a new larger bracket that has some slotted holes here for mounting, and lining it up, it lines up just perfectly. So this will work perfectly for this rear subframe brace on my car and the 19mm sway bar. And the third thing that I needed to purchase to get this sway bar to mount to the lower control arms were some end links. These are actually the Blocks adjustable end links here. They have spherical bushings. I did have to reuse one of my older bolts here because the lower control arms are actually threaded if you look closely, and the bolts that it comes with are the wrong thread pitch, and they have a locking nut on the back side. So I had to replace that on the lower control arm portion with my own bolt here. What's nice about this kit here is it is adjustable in length, so we're able to get a perfect fit. And it was only about 50 bucks shipped, so it wasn't too expensive. So let's go ahead and get the car lifted up and see about getting all this stuff bolted on. Alright, I was debating on showing this, but I want to go ahead and show it because the bolt that it comes with is a longer bolt, which you'll need because of the extra thickness of the brace here. But I tried driving the bolt into the other side of the subframe, and it turns out the thread pitch is incorrect. This is like a 10 by 1.5, and I think this is like a 10 by 1.25, like a ultra fine thread pitch. This is just a regular fine. So I have to use a threader here. So I have to rethread this as the larger thread pitch so I can use this bolt without having to go buy another bolt here. So that's what I'm doing right now. This is actually a Harbor Freight bit that I got from Harbor Freight. It's a drill bit slash a tap, I guess what you would call it. So I have to retap this hole here, and it's kind of difficult because there's no way to get it driven through the hole here with an extension because it's too big to fit through. So I'm having to use just a crescent wrench because I don't have a 1/4 inch wrench, and I'm just going to do it just a little by little until this is retapped all the way through. So that's what I'm doing. Alright, before I mount this rear sway bar, I want to go ahead and lubricate the bushings with the energy suspension pre-lube here. This goes on the inside of the bushing. I went ahead and got this mounted on there. It's kind of tough because it's a urethane bushing, but we're going to go ahead and lubricate inside of here, and that should prevent squeaking and things like that in the future. Alright, the install is complete, and I have to say, after taking it for a little bit of a drive, it feels 5 times better around these turns. That is really a must on one of these cars, is putting a rear sway bar on there. And if you don't have a reinforced subframe, go ahead and get the subframe brace. That way you have something to mount it to as well. So that's a 19 millimeter. I haven't really seen any 19 millimeter sway bars aftermarket available lately. I don't know if that was just kind of a something that was in the past where 19 millimeter was a popular size, but most of the ones that I've seen lately are 23 millimeters or even bigger than that. So if you put something that big on your Civic, I definitely recommend a subframe brace. The 19, you could probably argue you don't necessarily need it because it does have the threaded holes for the sway bar on there. I could have just bolted it right to the subframe, but I'm going to be happy with that. And I needed lower control arms anyway for mounting the sway bar because the stock lower control arms on the LX Civic here did not have the sway bar threaded holes. So I'm happy with that. The tie bar was not put on, like I said, and honestly, you don't really need the tie bar if you have the subframe brace. So if you don't have a subframe brace, I can see the tie bar doing a little bit because it does reinforce the rear subframe just a little bit more than the factory does. So that could be beneficial, but for now I'm just going to hang on to that. Might find something to throw it onto. I'm not sure if the EG and the EF are the same. Maybe that's something I'll look into, throwing it on one of these CRXs. Help stiffen that rear end up a little bit. But with that install complete, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. We're going to be done with the EG Civic for now, and then we're going to be jumping right back into the CRX and hopefully getting the rest of these parts painted in and get that thing put together. I've been talking about it for about a year now. It's slow going, but we will get it done.